It is Friday, July 23rd. Sorry, just checking. There's a little, there we go. There's been a couple glitches today, so I do apologize. We are starting later than normal because I had been speaking and transmitting, and major just blip in the screen went away and I completely lost the video, so we are starting again. And if you noticed in the description, we're talking today about some of the large events that are going on, some of the devastating events that are going on, as a matter of fact. And I'm sure everyone is aware and has heard the massive fires in the West and in Canada, the flooding in Europe with a couple hundred people who lost their lives, not to mention livelihoods and homes and history that is lost. And now China with, again, lives lost in the flooding there. And we have huge fires as well in Russia, Siberia to be exact. And these fires, these are new fires, the fires that have been kind of continuous in Siberia, especially since the huge oil spill about a year and a half ago, I believe. In any case, it is also threatening lives and villages, etc. But what I want to bring forward today, and as terrible as all of that is to people and finance, economies, and as I said, villages, towns, history, it still in many ways objectifies the earth, the trees, the land masses that are being affected, not to mention the animals and mammals and insects. We talk about hundreds of thousands of acres being burned, but that does entail great loss of life. And when we only count the cost of human life, it creates a deep effect upon us, whether we're aware of it or not. We are very, very intricately and intimately connected with this planet, with nature, with the land, with plants and animals, birds, fish, insect. And for quite some time we have ignored and lost that relationship. We use the earth, we are on the earth, we take from the earth, we dump on the earth. And if we were to do that in a relationship with a friend, we wouldn't have that friend very long. A relationship, of course, must need talking and listening and caring about and interested in and encouraging and supporting and helping one another, whether it's in a marital relationship, a family relationship, a friendship, as well as ultimately society. And we have objectified the earth, nature, animals, and one another, of course. We are coming to greater awareness that objectification is severely damaging, not merely to the other, that we are objectifying based on race, religion, gender, sexual preference, innumerable things. But in the objectification of the other, it necessitates losing a section of yourself, a part of yourself, or ourselves. It is absolutely vital, if you will, to not feel. And when we don't feel the other, it's an indication that we are not feeling ourselves. We objectify our own bodies. We objectify our mental state as if it's a thing that needs to be dealt with or handled or medicated or gotten rid of, released, etc., instead of being in relationship with, exploring, speaking to, listening, feeling into. And that's very, very difficult when we are very defended. And we are very, very defended as a result of what occurred to us at a very young age, when we couldn't do anything about the situations we were in. We couldn't make it change. We were trapped in it. And this led to the creation of a defense system that protected us more often than not by numbing us or disconnecting from that feeling or disconnecting from that experience. Yet it is still embedded and living live in our bodies, whether we are consciously aware of it or not. When we begin to really explore deeply who we are and begin to follow the trails back to where and how those disconnections occurred and why, we're able to free up and reclaim that piece of ourselves, and it becomes less scary and less painful, actually, to feel, whether it's feeling the other or feeling the earth. There are many people right now who, identify themselves as empaths and are having a hard time, or sensitives, old souls, are having a hard time with what's going on in the world and what's going on in the earth, because it seems too overwhelming and too painful or infuriating or scary. And this is actually a replication of what we experienced as a child. So when we are able to explore and reconnect and reclaim and have that part of us once again, not only does it transform our lives, but it allows us to be connected to others and the earth in a wholly different way. And what seemed intolerable to feel before, whether individually or collectively or in regard to the earth, it literally causes us to make changes because it doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't feel good to continue to create the same amount of trash when we see an article about the 100,000 tons of trash that was just thrown into the ocean this week off the coast of California. It wouldn't feel good for us to do that to ourselves as we come to this more feeling place of our internal world. And it doesn't feel good to allow those things to happen to the earth. So the objectification begins with us and our own bodies, our own psyches, our own spirit or spiritual being. And we must come to a state where everything on this planet is recognized as alive and vital and part of the whole, and has rights and needs and wants, if you will, as well as humans. We looked at last week ecocide, which is being formed as an international law wherein anyone who wantonly or purposefully causes devastation in any way, or knowingly that it could cause devastation in even the long run, can be held accountable. And as I mentioned last week, we are far from being able to enforce that. But the fact that it is now on the books, or it's at least been written, if not fully adopted, it is still, we're moving towards that. Now, the Earth has her own means of cleansing, purging, resetting herself. So a great deal of what is going on is just that. Nothing that hasn't really occurred throughout the history of this planet, as far as floods and fires, storms, etc. But our handprint on this is creating it's creating or causing more frequency of those natural disasters, if you will, and also increasing the severity. And this isn't from one group or one political perspective. This is science from around the world, every discipline of science. And from their perspective, and you know, they only generally see their perspective, whether it's geology or biology or climatology. But what's been coming forth lately is a lot of the different disciplines are comparing notes or bringing forth in a concerted effort the information that they have found. And as a result, there is true evidence that we are affecting what's going on. Now, everybody seems to know that, but it's still a thing. The Earth is still this thing that we need to do something with, because it's costing us economically, because it is costing lives, because it is affecting society and culture. But it is actually on a much deeper basis that we are being affected. This intimate, intricate interconnectedness upon which this system is based between animals, plants, microbes, insects, birds. There are very specific circles of life, ecosystems that depend and are interdependent upon one another. And when one is out of sync or out of balance, it's a domino effect. And we have a lot of dominoes falling right now that we can do something about. And again, as I mentioned earlier, with how many people treat their bodies, if it's just a means of taking actions or adjusting things with technology, with changes in governmental policies and corporate policies, that's great. But as long as this objectification of the earth and animals and trees and plants continues, we are not going to truly be able to not only fully express who we are, but we are not going to fully express this project and evolve within it as we are being given the opportunity to. And there are many traditions, disciplines who recognize that there is more to this earth than a dead thing that we can claim, as the song goes. That in fact the earth has her own beingness, she has her own soul trajectory, she has her own even emotional and mental states. And if you were to interact with a friend and not take that into account, speak to them, listen to them, support them, encourage them, then it's going to be a very one-sided relationship, or the relationship will end. And from all the information that I've been receiving, this is what's going on. The earth cannot maintain a relationship with us if we aren't willing to be in relationship with her. And what's more, because we are meant to be in this intricate, intimate, back and forth, interdependent relationship with the earth, what happens on the earth is also experienced in our bodies, because we have the same energetic structures as the earth. We have an electrical grid within our energy field. The earth does as well. We have a magnetic grid. We have an electromagnetic grid. Many of you are aware that the electromagnetic grid and is what helps us, what prevents us from burning up from the sun. Electromagnetics are a vital part of everyday life. Our bodies are feeling the effects of the fires, the flooding, and when we tune in, we can better know ourselves, but also we can affect the earth through our own system and be affected by those energetics and helpers that are lined up as they are this week. We have a full moon tonight. This is traditionally known as the buck moon, also as the midsummer moon. There's many names depending on, certainly here in this, in Northern America, or North America, the Native Americans, depending on what tribe and what area of the country, had a different name for it, depending on the harvest, depending on the animals. This is called the buck moon because at this point in the year, both here and in Europe, the bucks, their antlers are full grown at this point. Which brings us to the cycles and rhythms and seasons of the earth, and how oftentimes our timing, man's framework for time, this arbitrary 9 to 5 choosing, is not in accord with those seasons and cycles and rhythms. And we have, again, rhythms and cycles and seasons within our own bodies. And when we align those, when we are able to feel our rhythm and cycles, we are better able to not only feel those of the earth and be aware of them, but syncopate with them. Many people during the pandemic were able to experience their own seasons and cycles within their home, within their day, within their families, and are loath to go back to that confining 9 a.m., 12 a.m., 9 a.m. to 12, you take a lunch break, and then back again to work until 5, and then, you know, home again on the commute or what have you. So we're recognizing that that is not necessarily the most ideal for our bodies, for our lives, for our families. And we're being given the opportunity each and every time there is a huge catastrophic event to feel into our own emotional state, our own physical state, our own spiritual state, and see where there is some reflection of that in our own lives. And as we transform or work with that within ourselves, as I said, it creates more connection and more consciousness and more awareness of those around us and that which is around us. Another really difficult, of course, we have the fierce heat in the West, also the United Kingdom, Ireland, they're going through huge heat waves as well. We've had others throughout the past couple of weeks. One of the things that's becoming very, very apparent here on the East Coast is a devastating disease of our songbirds and our birds that we see in the suburban and urban areas. And they've been desperately, for the past couple of months, the scientists have been trying to find out what it is, what's causing it, how to prevent it. And the only suggestion is to try and disinfect the bird feeders. If you have any out in your yard, please be aware of what's going on. You can go through the Nature Conservancy. They have a lot of information. Right now, the National Fish and Wildlife Association, which is a government body, has put out suggestions and parameters to help. And, you know, we're kind of caught in a bind there because at this point, due to the destruction of many ecosystems, copses of trees, cutting down of trees. Birds do not have the same food sources and home sources that they did previously. So a lot of them do actually depend upon bird feeders. So it's a very difficult situation. And it's interesting that the only way to try to prevent it is the same way to try to prevent any disease in us, is to isolate it and to not gather together, as we experienced last year. There was also more reports of other birds, flamingos, dying because of the heat and drought. Another report came out this week that definitely shows our handprint or footprint. They have sourced the dying off of the coral in the Caribbean to cruise ships dumping their waste as they go. So there are steps that we can take. And I know that's a lot, and that's only a few of the things that have been going on. But we must not turn a blind eye because it hurts, because we don't want to feel, whether it's what's going on in the earth or whether it's what's going on in our lives. Every day with clients, I watch as they go through a very, very difficult or traumatic experience from the past and come through the other side with such empowerment and such freedom and space and ability to tap in and let come forth their intuitive abilities, and are receiving information all day long from all kinds of sources, including nature. And so I encourage you to not numb out or hear what's going on simply from a cognitive basis. It may be difficult to feel into the devastation, but unless and until we are in that deep relationship with the earth and nature, we really cannot be in deep relationship with ourselves individually or collectively. As I mentioned, we have the full moon this today, helping us. And always with a full moon, we have the feminine, emotional, fluid, flowing energy, as well as in this particular instance, it's combined with some very strong kind of power and passion energy. It's going to appear to many very, very orange because of its location. And you can align with that orange and really feel into your second chakra and your passions and perhaps even your anger, and how that anger is an opportunity to explore and reconnect with a part of yourself. We also have the summer triangle. I mentioned that earlier in the month. It's visible right now. There are 3 very, very bright and strong stars, Altair, Deneb, and Vega, and they each are the strongest star from 3 different constellations. Altair from the constellation of Aquila, which of course represents the eagle, and Deneb is from the Cygnus constellation, which is the Swan, and Vega is shining from the constellation Lyra, which is, the harp, the musical instrument. And all of these constellations, the ancients spoke to in a way, or received information from. They represent mythological creatures, mythological heroes, mythological occurrences. And we can look at that as some stories that were made up, or for many, this is very, very real, and those were very real creatures, very real beings. Greek gods, the Egyptian gods, and many more. And if in fact that is the case, which is certainly my experience and that of many, that it is very, very real, then those beings are stepping forward to try to inform us and help us and guide us. And when we look at the ancient knowledge, the ancient information about these constellations, it is an opportunity to explore those particular aspects of us. Very interestingly, this week, several other ancient civilizations came forth through various science and archaeological discoveries. That of an ancient shipwreck that was found off the coast of Egypt, and it's a Greek ship off the coast of what was Alexandria. And it's very unusual to find a ship from that era. This is, it was apparently an earthquake, knocked down, of course, many buildings, but in particular a sacred shrine, and some of those chunks of the building fell onto this ship that was in the harbor, moored in the harbor, and so it's still sitting there with a lot of the objects that were in it. So they're very thrilled to be able to study that, and so we're bringing forward some of that energy and some of the knowledge of the combination of Greek and Egyptian cultures. We also have the Norns, Norns, which were a very strange and yet powerful group of women seers and prophesiers from the Norse mythology, Vikings, etc. And some of you may know them as. And there are no accidents that these things are occurring right now. It's giving us an opportunity not only to look at our history and learn from it as far as mistakes, as far as ways of being, but also in that mythology, as Joseph Campbell spoke of it, it is vital to our very spirit, to our very souls, to acknowledge these greater aspects of ourselves, be it represented as gods or heroes or creatures. And we also have so many aspects of nature that step forward and assist us as well. But this week is pretty anchored into a lot of the ancient information coming through the cosmic, coming through, as I mentioned, the archaeological finds, coming through the ancient ways in which indigenous cultures interrelated, interconnected. We're in deep relationship with the earth, nature, seasons, cycles, the recognition of the beingness, the sentience, if you will, the spirit of everything on this planet, which is why they're referred to as all our relations. For when we are in relationship with these many magnificent, fascinating, strange and wild and wondrous aspects of the earth, it enables us to be in profound relationship with ourselves, with the other, inclusively, with all of our diversity and different perspectives. There is a space for everything when we are in relationship with. And so I invite you now to just allow your body to settle into the chair, into the couch, whatever you're seated upon. And ask and allow your body. Ask and allow your energy field. Ask and allow your wider self, which is your soul self, the wide experience of you. Ask and allow your guides, teachers, masters to join you here and now, enabling you to feel, experience that deeper part of you that has never ceased being in relationship with the divine in and through all things as an expression of that oneness. And the more you allow, the more deeply your energy field can settle down into your body, which allows you to settle down into your internal world, your inner verse, which enables you to have a felt sense of you. I always encourage everyone to, when we're doing these type of practices, to kind of let go of the need to see or know or use your forehead, frontal lobe, third eye. For while many may be used to that avenue, it is not necessarily your best avenue to experience. And a felt experience is something that you will have within you, has the potential to materially modify and change you. A vision is a wonderful thing, and it's great to be able to see with your mind's eye or your mind screen, but it is that felt experience that allows for a knowing level, creating faith, if you will. Faith in yourself, faith in this grand project that you are a vital part of. So we're going to invite in the land, the trees, the animals, the insects, all being affected by these massive wildfires. We're going to invite in the waters of the floods. We're going to invite in the beautiful messenger beings, the birds, those that are being affected by this unknown disease, the flamingos dying due to the heat and drought, the coral which holds 70 to 80% of all the life in the oceans. So key to the perpetuation of our oceans. And the many others affected, plants, animals, insects, by our human footprint or handprint this week. And calling in and calling upon the many helpers that are here, stepping forward at this time with their information, with their representation, with their energetic, to allow us to have an opportunity to become more aware, more conscious, more feeling sensitive to our own internal seasons, cycles, rhythms, our own emotional status at any given time. For it is the disconnect within ourselves that is reflected outwardly in the disconnect between and among peoples and groups, between and among humans and the other beings that make up this magnificent planet. Allowing the ancient civilizations who recognized not only that connectedness and interconnectedness, of humans and the earth, but humans and beings with beyond human capacity or knowledge, and those heroic humans who came to know themselves deeply through their challenges and encounters, expanding and stretching and becoming more than they were at the start of their journey. And just as we are being given the opportunity individually and collectively to become more than who we have been, to literally evolve human nature, again, you need not follow my words, but simply feel the energetics channeled through the sound, the vibration, the frequency, enabling or allowing your body and energy field and wider self to guide you and lead you down and within on your own mini journey at this moment. Feeling, not following with your brain or your third eye, but sensating what is going on in your body and internally in your inner verse. It may simply feel as if you are falling asleep or dreaming. You may actually experience another reality of you within you. Perhaps tapping into your own experience in an ancient culture. Perhaps allowing your DNA of the many ancestors who have gone before you, paving the way, creating the history of you. yourself to feel this magnificent full moon energy. Amazing. Participant. Deeply into you, for therein lies all answers, all wisdom, not in knowledge, but in sentient sensations, experiences, memories. Perfect energetic to assist us in this slipping down. Allowing yourself to deeply experience the interwoven, interconnected interdependence of the many different aspects and parts of you. Many different lives of you, the many different lives of those who have come before you, the many lives, beings, participants, in this project Earth. Trees, clouds, birds, insects, water beings, the land itself, microbes, bacteria, all are part of this mix that, when in exquisite interrelationship and balance, feel all our relations. Thousands of years, indigenous peoples, the ancients, remained in relationship with the earth in such a way that it flourished, man flourished, allow yourself to feel the magnificence of that within your body, within your energy field, within your very spirit. As you have this felt sense of interrelatedness, interdependence, it fills and fulfills, nurtures and nourishes. For it is a never-ending source of life energy, taking another deep, deep drink, if you will, of this blending of all that is here, this point in time. For you to choose now. Simply following, simply allowing your energy field and your wider self, which have the greatest knowing for you, feel and follow your unique rhythm and pace and way. You need not know what or how that is, simply allowing your energy field and your wider self who know exactly your way. Traveling from or moving from a less physical state back to a more third-dimensional physical state. Not having to separate the two. For you are both and more. But for the moment, to close out this particular energetic practice, you are welcome to stay in the energy and or come back and revisit and drop in, listening to the latter part of this recording, or following your energy field and wider self back in at any time. But just know that all beings that have been participating, helping us, will and have in this moment assimilated and physicalized your experience in such a way that you can still go about your day in the 3D and still tapped in to your experience beyond the 3D. Just a quick announcement. The workshop Freedom from Chains That Bind is going to be repeated next weekend. There were many people that wanted to attend but could not until next weekend. So I'm rescheduling it again, or replicating it again for next Saturday, the 31st, to wrap up our whole month of July and the theme of freedom. We're going to be working with the many levels of you, mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, to break or unbind any of the chains of patterning that have prevented those parts of you to fly. So please contact me either through email or direct messaging or a phone call, and I can give you more information and register you. It will be a virtual workshop this time, and hoping that we will be able to do one in person before the fall. So, as always, with the most profound honor, gratitude, and love for your presence on the planet at this time, I will see you soon. Bye-bye.